Slayers on Hypixel Skyblock, an essential part of the game. People grind them for strong items, expensive RNGs, talismans, and of course for those amazing stat boosts. Some of them are easy to dispose of, but there is a very steep difficulty curve. But now, let me introduce you to a new way to deal with Slayers. Deal millions of damage while standing still, complete any Slayer quest completely AFK. I present to you Necromancy. So far, Necromancy has been a pretty unknown part of the game, but what if I told you that it could become the new meta for people having trouble with Slayers? If you have been following my channel, you know that I have been using these methods for quite some time. But now, thanks to a recent update, it has not only become much easier to spawn souls, it's also possible to solo AFK the strongest Slayer boss in the game, T4 Voidglooms. Wanna know how to drop your own Warden's Heart or Judgement Core while standing still? Let's go and find out. Seeing small number go up gives people a feeling of happiness. That's an undeniable fact. Do you want to turn this frown upside down? Then help me get that red name by gently touching the subscribe button and caressing the like button. Eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed that this episode is built up of a series of chapters. I will start off by teaching you how to AFK all of the tier 4 Slayers and up to tier 2 Voidgloom. Next we will add tier 3 Voidglooms, then tier 5 Rev and eventually the tier 4 Voidgloom. Setups will gradually become more difficult and expensive. Make sure to watch this video from the first setup till the last, since each setup builds on the previous one. Unless you love to make life difficult, of course. There are only a couple of types of Slayers. You have the Revenant Slayers, that are zombies, Sven Slayers, the wolves, Tarantula Slayers, the spiders, and the most recent addition, Voidglooms, the Endermen. All of them have several tiers that slowly increase in difficulty. In case of the Voidgloom though, the difficulty difference is, let us call it interesting. The Revenant is the only one that has a tier 5. Leveling up your Slayer levels gives you access to new recipes, talismans, as well as the possibility to drop expensive RNGs. And of course, can't forget about those amazing small stat boosts. I would sell my soul for like 0.4 extra hit points at this point. Before we dive deeper into the details, a quick explanation about souls and necromancy. There are a couple of necromancer items in the game. When an undead mob is killed with a necromancer item, then souls might drop on the floor. Lower level souls are easier to get and they look like purple heads on the floor. You can either pick them up and then later shift and right click to check their stats, or completely remove their soul from existence. There is the Summoning Ring, the Reaper Sight and Necromancer Sword. The last two are preferred because you can put ultimate wise 5 on them. The mana cost of spawning souls depends on their damage and health. Stronger souls need a lot of mana to spawn, so you will need all the reductions you can get. Apart from their basic damage, they can also crit and deal up to 4 times damage. When you have souls that are spawned and you get attacked by a mob or attack one yourself, those souls will start attacking your target until it is dead. If you hit the target once and your soul kills it, you will still get the combat XP. For a full necromancy guide, you can watch the video that I will link at the end of this one. I will run through the cheapest gear you need for which Slayers in order to show you guys how to do Slayers with the least amount of effort and coin spent, because I like money. Now, one amazing advantage of this is that you can use the same setup for a lot of different Slayers. You no longer need any particular Slayer armor sets or specific weapons like Reaper Sight. Not that anyone uses that one, but there are some armor sets that buff souls. For example, you can have Necromancer Lord armor or the Reaper Mask that give additional slots on your Necromancer weapon. However, the most important one is the full set bonus of Necromancer Lord, which makes souls 20% stronger. I will always talk about the base damage, but keep in mind you can easily add 20% to it just by getting this full set. With this first setup, you will be able to AFK up to all the tier 4 Slayer bosses and for Voidgloom up to tier 2. Yes, you heard that right, you don't even have to lift a single finger to beat these bosses. The central part of these methods are Master Mode admin souls. In Master Mode 1 there is a rare room that contains a special type of crypts, the admins. These rooms exist in higher Master Mode floors as well, but those souls can't be dropped. They have 225,000 base damage as well as 15 million HP. If you want to get these souls yourself, be careful. They are level 25, just like the ones from floor 1. Their stats, however, are not the same. In other words, people might try to scam you by selling you the worthless souls from regular floors rather than the powerful ones that you can find on the Master Mode floors. That is why in my server discord.gg/necromancy we have reliable soul dealers that can get you anything you want. Based on the stats of those admin souls, we can calculate the mana cost to spawn one of them. You have 225,000 damage divided by 50, and then 15 million HP divided by 100,000 is a total of 4,650 mana. This is a lot, but luckily there are reductions. Wise Dragon Armor has a full set bonus that makes abilities only 2/3 of their original price. The Epic or Legendary Sheephead can reduce ability cost by 20% at level 100, and then there is Ultimate Wise 5. This is where the importance of Reaper Scythe or Necromancer's Sword comes in, because those are weapons, you can put Ultimate Wise 5 on them and cut ability costs in half. In this case, the total cost of spawning one admin comes all the way down to 1,246 mana. If you do not have the requirements to use the Necromancer's Sword, which is floor 6 completion, or the Reaper Scythe, which is Zombie Slayer 7, then you could use a Summoning Ring. However, you will need to have double the mana, because you will not have Ultimate Wise 5, which means you need 2,492. This is not inevitable though, and we will discuss the cheapest setup to reach that mana amount in the next part. For all of the setups, we will make sure that you don't have to reforge your talismans to mana based ones unless strictly needed. We will also leave out intelligence upgrades from alchemy levels or enchanting levels, so you can do this without needing any high skills or big talisman bags. In the later setups, your life becomes a lot easier if you do reforge your talisman bag, but I will always give you several options. And if you are a little bit short on intelligence, there are extra ways to get mana that I will also go over in a bit. For the first setup, we have a base mana of 100. Then there is Wise Dragon Armor, which gives a total of 350 intelligence for around 4 to 5 million coins. Then full Necrotic Reforge on it, which gives 600 intelligence, and you can buy these Reforge stones for about 50,000 per, and it costs 300,000 per to apply, which is around 1.4 mil total. Then the Heroic Reforge on your Necromancer weapon, this depends on your Reforge luck. Enchanting level 20 for Ultimate Wise 5 on your weapon, this gives you 26 intelligence. And then a level 100 Sheephead with a textbook, which will give you around 200 intelligence. For an epic one, the price is between 4 and 5 million coins. The Necromancer Sword goes for 10 million coins plus 2 million coins per soul that is on it, so 12 to 14 million coins. With the setup you have 1,367 mana. The total setup price is around 10 million coins for the armor and setup, and then 12 to 14 million for the Necromancer weapon based on the amount of souls. You can go cheaper right now if you opt for Necrotic Crystal Armor, but you will need the Wise Dragon Armor for the higher setups, and the 2/3 mana cost is really nice. Now if you want the cheapest setup there is, yes, I know all of you are super cheap, then this is it. Your base mana is 100 and Heroic on weapon stays the same. Now this setup goes with Crystal Armor, which gives you 690 in full light for around 2 million coins. You can use the Wise Reforge, this is again based on Reforge luck, but shouldn't take you too much coins, and gives you 800 intelligence. Enchanting level 20 for Ultimate Wise 5, and then the Sheephead level 100 stays the same. This setup will give you 1,916 mana, which is more than the other one. You need 1,860 if you can't use the Wise Dragon set, because you won't get a 2/3 reduction. This spares you a couple million coins on the Wise Dragon set, but in my opinion, the Wise Dragon Armor one is the best value overall, especially if you want to move on to better setups. This is a decently big investment, but keep in mind that you will be needing all this gear for the next tiers as well, and you are able to grind any Slayer while AFK. To show off exactly how this method works, let's take a look at these Slayer bosses. Tier 4 Revenant. Once the Slayer boss gets hit by your soul, the AI breaks and it will stop moving and very quickly die. You can wear your set with the most magic find, as that amount will apply to the drops you can get. The only reason you can't do a tier 5 Rev AFK with this is because it has an anti-cheese system. If you don't take damage for around 10 seconds, it will go into an insane regen phase that you cannot outdamage. You can attack the Slayer boss along with your soul, but I recommend one of the later setups before you do this. You will want at least 2 admin souls before trying a tier 5 Rev. And one of the later setups does enough damage to completely AFK the tier 5 Rev as well. The tier 4 Wolf dies very quickly. The only thing you need to be careful about is the pups. Your soul will keep targeting the main Sven boss, but the pups attack you, so make sure you don't die. The same anti-cheese system as the tier 5 Rev exists for the tier 4 Wolf, but one admin can kill it before this system starts working. Now if a Slayer boss is in an insane regen phase, the way you can get rid of it is either moving far enough away for your soul to teleport to you, or just respawn your soul. The tier 4 Tarantula literally gets squashed. On some parts of the map your soul cannot physically hit the spider because it's only 1 block tall and there are slabs or stairs on some of the parts here. So make sure to stay clear of that and you're all good. And then the tier 2 Voidgloom. Make sure you stay clear of the boss because it has area of attack damage. Have a look out for the beacons and run to them to not die. In the next part of the video I will also discuss a method where you can completely AFK Voidgloom bosses, but this is an extra cost that you don't need yet for tier 2 Voidgloom. Now quickly a couple of extra methods to easily get mana. Of course there's alchemy and enchanting levels for 2 mana per level and doing the melodies harp. There is the mana sentry cake for 5 intelligence. You can set your beacon 5 for 25 intelligence, and one of the most important ones, a bottle of Jeer. When maxed out, this gives an additional 100 intelligence. If you're running dungeons and find the quiz room, and if it's completed, any bottles of Jeer you will have will be maxed out, so make sure you always have a couple in your inventory when running dungeons. Then there is the espresso machine at Enderman Slayer 4 that gives you an additional 100 intelligence but costs a lot of soul flow. If you permanently leave this on, you will financially ruin yourself, so make sure to shut it off after spawning the soul you need. The Beastmaster talisman line and Bad Person talisman line also give additional intelligence, and last but not least, the Wither Essence shop and Enderman Slayer levels itself. And of course, the best method to gain more intelligence is subscribing to SimplySample on YouTube. Leave a comment with how much this has increased your IQ so far and how much it truly increased at the end of the video. Now let's move on to the next part, where we will also be AFKing tier 3 Voidglooms, one of the most dreaded Slayer bosses. All of the bosses can be killed even quicker, and especially for Voidgloom, this next gear upgrade will help you a lot to kill more. And you can also use these souls to kill the high level Enderman to be able to spawn the boss quicker. As long as you get 1 hit in, you will get the combat XP. Right now, you want to be able to spawn 2 admin souls at the same time. There are 2 possible methods, the cheapest one and the easiest one. In this part, I will also introduce 2 very important mechanics, armor swapping and sword swapping, and even combine them at the same time. It's still possible to just summon 2 admins in a Wise Dragon set, but you will need quite an investment and overflow mana. On top of the first stage, you will now want Wisdom 5 on all of your pieces. I suggest buying Wisdom 1 books and combining those. Now either you can get 600 overflow mana, which can be hard for some people because I assume you will not have the required Voidgloom Slayer level yet, or get intelligence in another way. If you reforge your talisman to Bizarre, you can quite easily get there. Another way to get extra intelligence is sword swapping from a weapon with high intelligence to your Necromancer weapon. The weapons I recommend is a Soul Stealer bow or a Spirit Scepter if you can afford this, or even a Hyperion if you are super rich. but I will get back on the sword swap later. Now let's take a look at the cheapest option. For this one, you will need a combination of the two setups from the previous segment, your necrotic crystal armor as well as a clean Y set. The reason you want a Y set is because you will armor swap to it. This will keep the mana from your original set, the crystal armor, but you will get the full set bonus of the Wise Dragon armor, so the 2/3 reduction if timed correctly. You can also see that there's a bow on this list, but what is this? The Soul Stealer bow gives a lot of added intelligence, and you can get ones that give close to 400 for only 10,000 coins. That's literally a steal. You know, a soul steal. Just like the armor swapping, you can use this weapon to swap from the bow to your necromancer weapon, but still keep the initial intelligence that you had. The next part can get quite tricky. If you truly don't want to reforge talismans and you don't have access to any overflow mana, you will need to sword and armor swap at the same time. Now how does this work? You start off by holding the bow and being in your crystal set. Open up your wardrobe and go to the slot with the Wise Dragon armor in it. What you do is click the Wise Dragon armor, instantly click escape, use your hotkey to swap to your necromancer weapon, and then right click to spawn the soul. The way I do this is I put my bow in the first slot and necromancer weapon in the second, and I have a keybind to switch to my second slot right next to my escape key. Getting the timing down for this can be a bit hard, but once you got it, you will be able to do it first try about 90% of the time. You can actually do this too quickly, so don't try to instantly click. Again, it's more of a feeling that you will get used to. For T3 Voidgloom, if you aren't tanky enough to survive by yourself, you will need an additional setup. But the good thing about it is you don't even have to think about beacons or eyes. You can 100% stand still and chill. You need to get a Withercloak sword for the Creeper Veil ability, a full goblin set so your max intelligence gets set to 100, and any weapon with ultimate wise 5 to hold. Since you should already have this on your necromancer weapon, you're already set for this. The reason you want goblin set is because the Creeper Veil takes 10% of your total mana if you have ultimate wise 5. This is only 10 mana when your mana is kept at 100. So if you have a Godpot active, which regens 8 mana per second, and base mana regen of 2%, you will regen 10 mana, which is the exact amount of cost of when you get hit. A Withercloak sword is around 4 to 5 million coins, which make the full setup to AFK tier 3 voids around 30 million coins. A low amount like this is literally insane, because most people will need to have high skills and have a billion net worth to be able to kill this bad boy. When the boss spawns, you want to take damage once and as quickly as possible walk back and activate your Creeper Veil. Now you can jump up to one of these pillars and switch to your goblin set. Only switch when you are in a safe spot, because you would literally get one-tapped by the Voidgloom and goblin armor. When the boss spawns, there's a small explosion you could use to easily take a bit of damage and aggro your souls onto the boss. You should never run out of mana, but if you have troubles with mana regen, try to always have a Godpot active, have your sheep on, get some overflow mana as soon as you can, and as a last resort, have someone place an orb close to you. Plasma Flux makes your regen go up from 10 mana to 13, and even a mana flux can already help out. Once the boss is dead, walk over, default dance on his grave, collect the loot, start a new Slayer quest and do it all over again. And this is big stonks. There's still a couple of Slayer bosses we have not yet mentioned, the tier 5 Revenant and the tier 4 Voidgloom, the two strongest in the game, and also the ones a lot of players have issues. To be able to fully AFK the tier 5 Revenant, you will need to spawn a Hypixel soul. As we all know, Hypixel is the owner of the server. In the master mode admin room there will always be one and only one Hypixel crypt. This one is more special than the others because it has a lot better stats. Instead of the regular 225,000 damage and 15 million health a normal master mode admin soul has, Hypixel has 750,000 damage and 75 million health, which is insanely good. This is by far the best soul for damage you can easily spawn right now. If we use the same calculation method for mana, we can see that it costs 16,500 mana, which is an insane amount. After full reduction, this can be brought back to only 4221 mana total. One Hypixel can solo AFK a tier 5 Rev in less than 10 seconds, and when it crits, it can even one-shot some of the tier 4 Slayers like Sven. This setup is still not very pricey, but you will need overflow mana to be able to spawn it easily. We will be using a final destination armor set for this as well, so you will need at least Enderman Slayer 4, but you can very easily get there with the 2 admin souls from the previous step. Granted your Enderman Slayer 4, you will also have access to 200 overflow mana. Final Destination has a full set bonus that multiplies your intelligence by 1.5 when you are in combat, and this ability does use soul flow. And that multiplication is insanely good for us, because keep in mind, if you have 3000 intelligence and this ability activates, you will go all the way to 4450. But isn't 3 times 1.5 4.5? Yes it is, but your base mana does not get counted before the multiplication but only after, just like overflow mana. There are again several ways to do this, a setup that is focused on your final destination set, one focused on your Y set and one focused on crystal armor. You will still need final destination and Ys in all of the setups, so you may want to choose one of those. A Hypixel soul is 4221 mana with all reductions. Take off 200 from the overflow you should have and 100 from your base mana, you need to reach 4071. If we divide this by 1.5, you only need to reach 2714 mana before you use your final destination, and that is actually quite close to the amount you needed for those 2 admin souls. If you went with the Wise Dragon armor route before, you can choose to reforge talismans until you reach this, or reforge a part and add the soul stealer bow to your setup and do the additional sword swap. The way this works is the ability of Final Destination actually carries over onto other armor sets. So when in your final destination, you want to get into combat, then do /pet and press the back arrow so you can go into your wardrobe. Then you can switch to your Wise armor while the ability is still active. You will have to switch a couple of times for the extra mana to fully fill up. And once it does, and your overflow mana is active, you can just use your Necromancer weapon if you have enough mana, or do the sword swap from your Soul Stealer bow to your Necromancer weapon and spawn your Hypixel soul. For this setup, you will probably have to reforge talismans, but keep in mind, for anything that you need melee damage for, you can spawn a Hypixel and it has 750,000 damage per second, which is a lot higher than I ever did with melee. And this is personally what I did myself when I started off spawning Hypixel. But maybe you would like to keep your talisman on melee damage. And if you play a melee class in dungeons, then it would be annoying and pricey to keep swapping your talisman. The second setup centers around the final destination set. You will need to recom at least 2 pieces if you own a Hyperion, or fully recom it and get yourself a Spirit Scepter. You will end up with a fairly maxed final destination set, and then you just need to armor swap to a clean White Dragon and sword swap to your Necromancer sword at the same time. You can spare the price for those recoms by having higher skills or reforging only a couple of talismans. Again, my calculations don't include intelligence gained from skills, so you can make your life a lot easier if you don't want to do this additional sword swap by getting a bit of intelligence from talismans. The final way to do this is a double armor swap and sword swap. It's pretty much the same setup as we did in the part before this, where you have a necrotic crystal set or even a storm set, and you will swap to final destination till your mana fills up. And then sword and armor swap to your Y set and necromancer weapon like in the previous part. To know if you have enough mana, if you have 200 overflow, you need 2714 before you start swapping to final destination. I've only done this a couple of times myself because it can take quite some time and I don't feel like it's worth it at this point. With this Hypixel soul, Slayers literally get evaporated, so it's worth the investment to make it easier for you to spawn. At this point, I would recommend reforging your talisman to Bizarre and embracing the life of a mage. If you want to mainly do Voidgloom Slayers, I would recommend going with the final destination route, but instead of buying the recon pieces, reforge some of your talisman. The mana amount you get per talisman goes like this. Common is 6, uncommon 8, rare 10, epic 14, legendary 20 and mythic 30. And then there's finally the tier 4 Voidgloom. Originally we tried to do this with 2 Hypixel souls, but they ended up not being able to kill the Voidgloom before it despawned. Although it was very close. If you have 2 friends that can spawn a Hypixel each, and they have a Necromancer Lord set, they can kill your boss for you if you are using the Goblin Armor method. A recent update to Final Destination Armor has made it possible for us to spawn the strongest soul ever. Final Destination Armor used to multiply your intelligence by 1.2 and has now become 1.5. This has made us achieve a truly historic event for Necromancy, spawning a Master Mode Golem. This Golem soul costs 11,524 mana with full reductions. And outside of dungeons, this is an insane amount. Any idea how we reached that? For this we needed a specific moment, the Spooky event. Bad Person Armor gains 3 times stats during the Spooky event, and you can reach the highest amount of mana by having a full Recomp Necrotic Bad Person set with Legion 5 on every piece and a full Legion party around you. At this point you need a Chimera 5 Hyperion for the max amount of mana, and the best pet to use is actually an epic Phoenix pet with a textbook, as it gives the highest intelligence. You will need to use a sheep when spawning the soul, but the Chimera stat doesn't update when switching your pet out, so you will still keep the intelligence from Phoenix pet. You also need Enderman Slayer 8 for Ender Fumes to be able to get additional overflow mana. And then you use double armor swap and sword swap method we discussed earlier. Get in combat and use the full set bonus of Final Destination Armor to 1.5x your mana in the Bad Person set. When it is filled up, armor and sword swap from your Hyperion to your Necromancer weapon. This is an insanely costly setup, and you can only do it at specific times with a big group. But just like the Final Destination update, we will get more and more updates that will enable us to spawn Golem souls way more easily. Now let's see what it can do. A Golem soul can solo AFK tier 4 Voidgloom bosses with ease. It has 2 million DPS, so with Necromancer Lord it has 2.4 mil and can crit up to 4 times to do 9.6 million damage in a hit. You know what has close to 10 million health? Yeah, the tier 5 Rev. If this thing crits, it can almost one-shot the tier 5 Rev right when it spawns. That is crazy, right? Getting a Golem soul truly was historic, and I want to thank everyone that joined the Legion party to help out. But this is not the end. This video was focused on Slayers, but you can do so much more with Necromancy. You can use them when farming ghosts or killing any mob you want, even in dungeons. Stay tuned as we keep finding more ways to get more mana, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Special thanks to my 3 Lord of Lazy members, Ghostly, Some Person Don't Ask, and my newest addition, the Dragon Warrior. Your support really helps me to keep pushing these videos out, as well as my wonderful girlfriend for correcting the script of this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.